Okay, looks like we're doing chapter 18, the urinary system. This one is going to be another really ugly A&P lecture or exam because of the hormones that are involved. All the hormones and what the hormones do, what triggers those hormones to be released. And then in chapter 19, that gets really messy. But for chapter 19, I'll tell you exactly what you need to know rather than all of that chapter. If you've already looked at that chapter, it may scare you some. Okay, so number one, we need to know exactly where the kidneys are located. Work with me. Okay. I want to make them bigger, but anyways, our kidneys are located. We do have two of them, right and left. But they're located what is called retroperitoneal. So even if you haven't had medical terminology, what does retro mean?
Back in the day?
Back in the day. You know, we're in 80s. That would be retro. Back in the day. So if back in the day, what would be retro here? They're located where? Back. They're back behind. And then it says retroperitoneal. So peritoneum is what? What's your peritoneum? Just talked about it last lecture. That's your pleural cavity or your pleura. Peritoneal. Peritoneum. Yeah, you have several times.
Definitely.
Whole bunch of times. So.
I know it's the outside of something.
No. So,
Sac.
the lungs, it is a sac, yeah.
Yeah.
The lungs, we have the visceral pleura, which is right on the membrane right on top of the lungs. And then we have that parietal pleura, which lines the inside of that thoracic cavity. Remember, we had a big gut sac here. So, that is called your peritoneum. And then we have visceral peritoneum, which is all really thin layer on top of the stomach and then all around the intestines. So that is what, when we cut open our pigs, you could see the shiny on the inside of the pig. That was your peritoneum. So they sit retroperitoneal. So we have a big gut sac here and then they sit back behind. Remember when we cut out all of our stomach and intestines? Then back behind there you could see those two little kidneys sitting. And they should have had a film over them so you couldn't see like the outline really well of them. You could just see some nodules unless you cut really deep and then you see the whole kidney. So retroperitoneal, they sit back behind the peritoneum. They also, if you're looking on this guy here, he's sitting a little bit lower than this one over here. You got to think about what you have. We have the liver over here. We have the diaphragm, which is kind of tilted a little bit. So it does sit a little lower and to the right. One thing that I needed to tell you about the kidneys is they're also surrounded by some fat. You know, we talk about losing fat. We don't like fat. Well, we got to have fat here. They are located just below the 11th, so right at the 11th and 12th rib. So they are protected slightly by those ribs, but not completely. You've heard of kidney punches. You know, they're coming back behind and punching them in the backside. They're hitting those kidneys. That's a kidney punch. So we don't have ribs protecting those vital organs. We do have fat. Fat wrapped around, and that fat's called adipose tissue. Remember, adipose tissue is just fat. So we have fat wrapped around them. Another problem that you can have, can you move? Gosh, making me mad. Another problem you will have, especially this day and age, now that we're having insurances approve gastric bypasses, we're seeing more of them. So we're seeing more people have gastric bypass. And what the problem is with that, they lose weight really quickly. And if you lose weight really quickly, then we're losing a lot of fat. And if we lose fat here, not only does it cushion and protect those kidneys, but it kind of holds them up where they're supposed to be. So if you lose fat real quick, those kidneys can tend to sag and fall. And if they do, these ureters here, those tiny little tubes, they will get kinked. And so then you can cause what's called nephritis. So if we kink those, then urine will build up in this, but it won't be able to flow down. And then we can cause backup of urine and infection.